Hey adventurers, I'm Kate. Today I'm going to be doing a review for Stardust by Neil Gaiman. The genre of this book is fantasy, and age range I would say young adult or adult even. I say adult just because of some of the content. I wouldn't have wanted to read that as a kid, so that's my reasoning for putting it on a higher age range, although the story itself would be enjoyable to a much younger audience. So, starting with characters, the characters tied together well throughout the story, and the main character was remarkably human in my opinion. I can't say that everyone else came across as very human and relatable, but each of them had emotions that they portrayed that were relatable, even if it wasn't all the range of emotions that a normal human goes through in the amount of time we saw someone in a story. We did see relatable emotions, and the characters were developed, and they had personality, they had a background that influenced their personality. So I really enjoyed the characters in this story for that reason. So the plot, I thought the plot for Stardust was pretty great. It was really well tied together, and there were twists that I didn't expect at all. And it's also a adventure slash like hero journey type of thing, and I really enjoy those because I like seeing how a character's how a character grows in that time. So a lot of times their perspective will change, their goal might change halfway through or a portion of the way through. Sometimes it stays the same, and I really like seeing that in stories, how a different character and their specific goal are all tied together and how the character has grown by the end of the book. Or died, because sometimes they die. This wasn't a story that was really driven by theme. I didn't mind that. There were themes present, and they were more specific to the individual characters as opposed to something we'd take away as a reader, but they were done in a very satisfactory way, and I think if it was the right reader, they would take away something for their personal life. And it's a book more for enjoyment than learning, and I think you can learn from books, but I thought the themes were done specific to the characters, and it was very appropriate for the story. The world slash setting. I love the world slash setting. Technically, it's a low fantasy because it does take place on a semblance of Earth, but there's a whole other part of it. So it mentions places like London and Paris, France. But there's also a whole other world that's the fantasy world that's called Fairy, and there's a wall that separates it, and the story takes place mostly in Fairy, so we get to see a generous portion of this fantastical world. It was really well built, very well crafted. It didn't feel like a copy of the main fantasies that you sometimes feel like a world is just a flat out carbon copy with a cute couple marker scribbles over the top. This was very specific, very unique in itself, and I really liked getting to know a new world with a new culture and new background. And onto uniqueness factor or magic system. It is a fantasy, and the magic system is kind of hard to pinpoint. I didn't know exactly what aspect or part of the story to put under this, but the little bits of magic I did see I liked. There wasn't a lot of explanation for them, but it wasn't the type of story that demanded an explanation for magic. Some of them were traditional things you've heard of, such as runes. Some of it was very specific, like, I don't want to go into detail because I think if you are interested in the magic system, you should just check it out or read the book or something like that, or I can talk about it in a different video. But there were some things very specific to the story. The magic system tied directly into the story, and there was a lot of different aspects of it, different facets of it, if you will, that didn't superficially look like they were connected, but in the story they were connected. And so that was neat to see how everything was tied together in such a broad world. And like I said about there not being an explanation for the magic system, I'm the type of person who doesn't really care a whole lot about an explanation, so even if there was one or implication towards one, I could have very well just read over it and missed it completely. On my overall thoughts, overall, I did enjoy this story. I thought it was very well written. I loved the fantasy side. I loved seeing this new world and these creatures and species and things like that. It was a lot of fun. The characters were well done, and I loved how the magic system and the characters and the plot were all very intricately tied together. That being said, overall enjoyment is the area I dropped the rating a little bit just because of those mature scenes that I don't want to read. They were actually necessary to the story to an extent, but I am of the opinion that you kind of fade to black on a lot of those situations, and it's going to have the same effect. Well, you know, it won't have the same effect, but it depends on what effect you're going for. So those things make me uncomfortable to read. I don't like to read that type of stuff. But I did enjoy the book overall, but just because this is personal enjoyment, that's where my points rating came down. And then a quick note about writing style. I really loved Neil Gaiman's writing style. This specific story had a very poetic side to the prose, so very fluid. There was some really beautiful lines in it. Nothing that stood out as overly flowery, which I really liked as well. This is the first complete Neil Gaiman novel I've read. I think I've read, he wrote a 39 Clues book, I believe. Do I have it? I don't have it, but I'm pretty sure he wrote a 39 Clues book, and I've probably read that one, and I've started one of his other ones, whose name is blank, I'm blanking on at the minute, and everything I've read of his, I've liked his writing style, and I'm eager to read more of his type of works. I think I just have to find the right books for me of his. So my overall rating for this book is 4.5 stars because I did love so many aspects of it. Thank you all for watching an Erudite adventure. If you have any thoughts about Stardust or Neil Gaiman's work or want to recommend any of his books to me, I'd love to hear your thoughts about that and leave them in the comment section down below. Thanks for watching, guys. Stay warm.